What banks really need to be thinking about is analytics. And the use of analytics is very, very spotty. One of the opening sessions I just attended, one of the mega trends was all about profitability and how analytics would drive profitability. And we've been talking about that, for 20-some years now, maybe longer. But that's just one factor. I mean, there's all kinds of analytics around credit and customer preference and behavior and everything else. And without the data in good condition, you can't possibly begin to do analytics. I mean, you just can't treat a customer as a 360-degree customer and really understand how to segment them, which is what really gets you to where you can start treating customers, profitably or by preference, but at a segment level, because it's just impossible to look at tens of millions of customers one at a time. The first thing and the most impactful thing that's going to drive my other two pieces of this is getting that customer data relationship sorted out. I think it's a megatrend, actually. I think mobile micropayments, is something that has really taken off. I haven't seen that addressed as seriously in this country as I have in other countries. I think largely because, of our legacy infrastructure. Everybody has good bandwidth and landlines, and the credit card infrastructure is here. But legacy micropayments are incredibly useful. I mean, imagine if you never carried around a credit card, and you could just pass your cell phone, make all of your payments, have everything balanced, have it all synced with the bank, automatically refresh with funds whenever you want to. Just carry one thing, you've already got a phone. But in countries where there isn't a lot of credit card infrastructure, or there aren't banks that are offering credit cards, or aren't enough POS or acquires, all this kind of a thing, it makes much more sense. So you're starting to see mobile providers and telecoms companies take the initiative in that. And a lot of the banks are going to get left behind if they don't get on board. One of them has to do with one of your later questions, but it's really, how do you really tell what customers think, So we've invented something. I think we may have even been first, but there's a couple other out there I've seen now. It's called Sentiment Analyzer. And what it allows banks to do is to consistently monitor things like tweets and blogs and anything on a web or any other interactive channel for different sets of attributes that you can set up like rules. And then you can say, hey, what are our customers saying about us? What are our non-customers saying about us? And it becomes a very cool intelligence source back to the bank so that they can see how they're perceived. And they could be perceived differently, in different areas, maybe different products or different area, geographical areas. But you can start tuning yourself up. You can get that, that feedback loop going. And it's a really cool thing, the Sentiment Analyzer. I think you're going to see that really take off. So we've actually designed, and we haven't built everything, but we've designed an entire conceptual profitability system, all the way from unit pricing, all the way through using traps, if you will, to track in-flight transactions and then see how we can take those back and compare them to which product they were and what were all the costs that had been accumulated, and do unit-based pricing, and ultimately come back to the individual cost of everything that a customer does, whether it's online, through any channel, or batch, and then compare that back to the cost of delivering the services, through a financial model, and come back with profitability by everything, by customer, by account, by customer segment, by geography, by branch, by product, and this I think is going to really play well. I mean, in telecoms, what you see, and they came later. I mean, you have to remember that banking was automated before telecoms. Telecoms was second. But, they look at customers as subscribers. And they had millions of subscribers before most banks had millions of customers. So they started thinking a little bit differently about things like loyalty programs and incentives, and how to build applications around that would work. So One of the things that I think they've done a lot better, generally speaking, than most banks and banking software system providers have done is come up with very advanced multidimensional customer hierarchies that sort of lend themselves back to what I was saying earlier about getting the customer data right. And also product hierarchies, okay? And when you have that in place, you can do things like fee-based pricing. So we talked a little bit a few moments ago about profitability. Knowing the profitability is one thing, okay, but what do you do about it? If somebody's an unprofitable customer, how do I make them customers? So what are my alternatives? Is it pricing based, or can I only offer them some other product and try to upsell them, or can I just tell the customer to go away? So I've got to have some fee-based ways to make that relationship more profitable for the bank, and I can only do that having these two sort of underpinning technologies there. The other thing it very much lends itself to is loyalty programs, which the telecoms industry has been much, much better at, because you can see all the sort of interactions once you have these underpinnings that a customer is interested in. For example, where are they spending? How are they spending? What are they spending? And then you can make loyalty programs that are very specific and very, very customer-centric, and then you start having a lot less customer attrition and so forth. I think analyzing how the customers feel through these new technologies like sentiment analysis is extremely important. I mean, you have to understand your customers, and when you have, a changing, Gen X, Gen Y sort of a customer base, guys my age are not going to know what they want. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, my daughter's too old, I think, so there's no way other than to go out and actually mine for that and to trap all the blogs and the twits and kind of figure out, I mean, along with some market research, obviously, what it is that is, really going to make it with them. So I think that's an important technology. The other thing I would say is just be very doggedly religious about delivering in the form factors that those guys want. I mean, so if they want to do something on an iPod, you've better be able to deliver services on that iPod, or whatever other kind of a form factor comes along. And you need to take that decision and decide if that means, what is the balance? I mean, how many local apps like Android are actually running on a form factor? How many of these apps are more standard apps that are being pushed off of the hosted system? And that's the decision you have to take.